Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so I just need to introduce myself, Katie Pearson, and I'm going to pass off to Samantha.
Hi everyone. My name is Samantha Orellana. I am also part of the Symbiota support group. I work with the or hub, sorry. I work with Latin American community, so I'll be also giving a session after this one finishes in Spanish for anyone who is interested.
Thanks a lot, Samantha. Important subset of our community that we're going to talk to. Jen, you want to introduce yourself?
No, come to me at the end.
Okay, I'll switch over to Ed then, and then Greg.
Yeah. Ed Gilbert, been associated with Symbiota from the beginning and one of the developers and leads. So
And I'm Greg Post. I'm the Symbiota Support Hub system administrator and try to contribute to development when I can. So I will pass it over to Logan.
Hello, everybody. My name's Logan Wilt. I'm one of the core developers they hired about 2 years back. So I've been doing a lot of the core development for behind the scenes stuff and new application development for them.
And Nikita?
Hello, my name is Nikita Salikov, and I'm also part of the development team and working on all developing and new features and so on.
Great. And then we also have Mark Fishers on our team. I think he's not here yet, but he'll probably give a wave when you see him. Jen, you're ready.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Jen Yost, and I'm one of the sort of community development leads for the Symbiota Support Hub. And I try to make sure that this group keeps the portals running. And obviously, it's been a really stressful 2 weeks for all of you, but also our whole team, because basically for the last 2 weeks, we've been working all hands on deck to try to figure out what's going on and how to get your work restored as soon as possible. And so the people, particularly Ed and Greg, have been working very, very hard to make sure that we get everything back online. And we'll talk about that here in a second.
All right. I have a few slides to share. We have a few announcements just to start us off, and then I'll get us into talking about what's on everybody's mind right now. Okay, so welcome to August. Thanks for those of you who were able to visit us at Botany. Lindsay, Jen, and I were all there. And then this is one of our colleagues, Chris Tyrell, who has done some Symbiota development. He's over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we're glad that we were able to touch base with a lot of you guys in person. And so thanks for dropping by. And we wanted to give some space if Frank wants to give an update about the checklist workshop. Frank, do you want to say any words?
Yeah, so basically we hosted the workshop on creating advanced checklist at the Botany conference, and that worked surprisingly well because there was still one portal online, which is called the Micro portal. And so we used that for demonstration purposes. We had a couple of glitches because the checklist, as you probably all know, rely heavily on the taxonomic thesaurus, and that's a little bit messy in the Micro portal since there's so many names that are not quite resolved. Once we get the Lichen portal back online, you're all welcome to browse the help and support pages, which has a very detailed outline of that advanced checklist workflow. And you can, and hopefully all use these tools. They're available in all the different portals, not just in the Lichen consortium, but I've been trying to push that module of creating checklists, not just based on specimens as is usual for Symbiota, but also on literature. And hopefully, if one day we get the literature module functioning in Symbiota, then it will be easier to do that, to do that as well. So have a look at that help and resources support page from the Lichen Consortium. You might find it interesting for other purposes as well.
Yeah, and if you go to our Symbiota YouTube page, I think that we have a Symbiota support group recording about making checklists that Frank led. So also check that out if you're interested in kind of a preview. I was also asked to give an announcement about the second annual South Carolina Consortium of Herbaria meeting, which is happening tomorrow, both in person and virtually. And I think I have to pop out to give you the registration link. Here we are. But the organizers tell me that it is open to anyone herbarium related or not. If you're just interested in learning about their how they're forming this consortium and things that they have been doing in this consortium. So here's a couple of screenshots from their agenda, and I think Chilla's here and we'll put some more information in the chat too.
Yep, I'm here. I'll add the link.
Thanks a lot, Chilla. Okay, so let's get to what everyone is so excited to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about, because we have a little bit more clarity now, thankfully. As you recall, 2 weeks ago, the portals were shut down because of a security issue that was identified by the ASU security operations team. And to address that, they brought in some external consultants. The whole security operations team really got into the problem to investigate what the issue was. And we got some clarity late last week about what that issue was. And sorry in advance, my cat is joining us. You might hear some meowing in the background. So what it boils down to, we think, or at least the team thinks, is that there was a breached password in one of the portals. And then the user who breached this password was able to exploit some vulnerabilities in the code, which introduced additional issues and additional ways of getting to other resources, or at least trying to get to other resources in the ASU network. So we think, or they think, that the target wasn't necessarily the Symbiota portals themselves, like all of our data is open and out there anyways, but that they were trying to leapfrog into other systems using our system. So
Let me just add to that a little bit for just to make it abundantly clear to everybody. So, like many of you are at institutions where you have to take those password training sessions, that says like don't take a selfie of yourself with your password on a post-it in the background and those sorts of things. And so this is a case where it was a cyber attack that used a weak password to basically break into the ASU server environment via a Symbiota portal. And then once they did that, that gave them time to sort of suss out ASU's environment. And this was probably like a ransomware attack to try to get to ASU's student data, because it's a very large university serving 200,000 students in a big operation. And so I think, anyway, so that's what we know happened.
yeah, and luckily, like this was an attempt. We don't think they got very far, or the team doesn't think they got very far. So not a lot of damage is done to our knowledge. And as we told you early on in the process, our data did not appear to be affected at all. We were able to get secure downloads of like that day's data. So there was no data loss or data corruption from the Symbiota portals, which was a huge relief. So, yes, question?
That happened right around the time when you changed the format and so on. Did it have anything to do with that? Was that part of the weakness?
Oh, good question, Annette. So I think you're referring to the fact that we updated most of the portals to Symbiota 3.3. That did not affect the vulnerabilities. Those vulnerabilities had existed in the code prior to that code release. And in fact, 3.3 was probably our securest release yet. It just hadn't patched up those particular vulnerabilities that had been exploited in this attack.
One of the things I noticed about this new system is that we're no longer able to get into the site map and look at the outline of all the whole outline of the whole bunch of
Hmm.
taxa. Is
You
that
should be able to get to that. It might be that that link was taken off of your menu or something, but that page probably still exists. And if not, we can follow up with you, figure out what the issue might have been.
Ed? Is that okay for me to be back on that?
Yeah, yeah,
Ed?
that's fine.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sitemap is secure. There's no problem there.
Because if you try to input a new taxon and they're going to say it's not in the system, then how do you put it in the system if you can't get to that sitemap? That's what I wonder. We have all kinds of stuff to add. Anyway.
Yeah, that's likely just an issue with the links on your portal header. Like you should still be able to access that. I'm going to walk through some lessons that we have learned and some recommendations that we have to the community from this attack, and then we'll have lots and lots of time for additional questions. So I'll just walk through these real quick. Okay, so a few lessons learned on the Symbiota Support Hub side. The first is kind of obvious, like we need to be a little bit better with our password hygiene, and that might be kind of like a community-wide recommendation. I'll repeat it later, but so in the newer versions of the code, there's going to be a minimum of 8 characters for passwords. We want to encourage everyone to change passwords regularly, remind everyone not to share passwords. I know some institutions like will have one password and then multiple people are using that same login to get in. We want to discourage that as much as possible because that is a password sharing that could lead to some sort of security breach. So just consider that. Obviously, because there were vulnerabilities in the code, we needed to improve the security of the code, and we did that. And then this is kind of part of the process that we could have done better is point all the portal URLs to a central page sooner in the process. So like last week, we finally got it so that, if you go to cch2.org, it takes you to kind of a splash page that says that CCH2 or Symbiota portals are down. And we could have done better in communicating that earlier on. We know that a lot of you are on our email list, and we appreciate that we were able to communicate with you all like that. But it just helps for all of our public users who may not be on that email address or email list. We also learned, at least the Symbiota Support Hub learned or relearned, that our community is incredibly supportive and encouraging. So we just want to give you a huge, huge thanks for all of your guys' patience. Like truly, you guys were awesome. Even though it was a really frustrating situation, we got lots of support. So thank you for that. And I feel like this whole incident kind of underlines the need for Symbiota portals to have skilled and dedicated staff like the Symbiota Support Hub to continue to function and keep up with the latest security threats. So that's just something for our whole community to keep in mind, is that this required a lot of work from many people, and you can't just put a website online and expect it to continue to function. So something for us to think about moving forward. So a couple of recommendations for the community following this is obviously like the password hygiene we already talked about. And this also underscores the need to regularly download a Darwin Core archive backup of your data in case there are portal outages or even network connectivity issues. That happens often too, like, your internet goes down. And then also many people were able to access their data because they published a copy of their data to GBIF. So if you don't currently also publish your data to GBIF, just consider putting that into your workflow in the future, and we can help you out with that because that acts as a second backup of your data in a pinch, like in a big problem. So
And if you, many people had asked during the last 2 weeks, like for some version of these two things, just access to their own data as they were trying to navigate while the portals were down. And so this is just a reminder that you can access your data in these two different ways. If you regularly download a Darwin Core archive, then you will at least have those files on some local computer. And then also your records are searchable on GBIF. Not quite in the same way that they are in a portal, but at least you can look things up.
hmm And Allison asked, what is regularly? Like weekly? I think regularly is relative to how quickly you're updating the data. So like Allison, I know you guys are super active in your herbarium and you're changing stuff every day. And so then I would probably do a weekly backup. But for less dynamic collections, then you could probably do monthly. But it really depends on like when have we, um, when did you last do a big update?
The other question is about the weak password issue being on the portal manager level or below. The and I correct me if I'm wrong here, team, but it's really anybody who's able to edit and access the data. Well, I guess there's two levels to this. There's the past vulnerability, and the past vulnerability came from any user that was able to upload a file. But team, maybe as long as they got into a portal, they might have been able to hack the vulnerabilities. Since this incident, we've now changed a bunch of hygiene about how the code functions and how different versions like image uploading are compartmentalized from the whole rest of the system. And so, in a perfect world, those security weaknesses have been fixed, but on the user's end, having the strong password makes sure that bad actors can't get in there. And another thing that we face is that this is all open source code. And what that means is that people can actually study the code on GitHub and learn what the vulnerabilities are. And so that places a bigger burden on our team to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities or all of the software hygiene is like perfect. And so,
Yeah, and that's a great question. It was just like anyone who could upload like an image or any sort of file could have potentially exploited this same vulnerability. Like Jen said, that has all been buttoned up. We have done some pretty sweeping vulnerability changes, or we've gotten rid of them. But if there are other things that we have not fixed, then those could still be exploited if someone is able to hack someone's password. Okay, so what does this all mean moving forward, and when are the portals coming back online? I know those are the questions that are probably on everybody's mind. So, in response to this knowledge, now knowing like what the issue was and being able to fix them, we have done several things. We've been able to improve the security of the servers. So there's certain settings that we can set up to make sure that the servers are providing a more secure environment for the code. So we've done a lot of those. We have also improved the code, like I said, to button up all those vulnerabilities that are even behind logins. So those improvements have been made. We are also going to have a required reset of all passwords the first time you log into the portal once it comes back online. You're going to have to change your password. And I think Ed actually said that it's going to be a 10 character minimum. So just make sure you do that. Please don't use an old password. Also, don't use a password that is associated with any of your other like affiliations. Like for sure, don't use your ASU login or University of Illinois login. Just come up with a new password there. Um, and so we've made all those code and server changes. And because the portals are already offline, we have used this opportunity to accelerate the migration of these portals from ASU to KU, most of them at least. So that's actually going really well, and we have several portals in the staging, almost very close to being done stage of being released. We're hoping they're going to be released today, making as long as we can make sure that everything, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. That would be a subset of portals, which I believe includes CCH2, the Consortium of Northeastern Herbaria, the Teredo portal, the Algae portal. I think those are the ones that we potentially are going to have live. Then next in the queue is going to be the SciNet network because we have a huge amount of users dependent on that. And then we will continue to just roll out portals after portals as fast as we can, knowing that a lot of them have current projects that they're working on. We are going to be working on that furiously for the next couple of weeks.
So, Katie, is it correct to assume that by the end of the week, everybody will be restored?
I think that is the hope, but I don't think it can be assumed at this point.
Okay, but the first portals will hopefully be coming back online today or tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the goal. Today and tomorrow, and then it partially depends on us being able to get new servers completely set up because we have like 3 ready right now, but we need more. And those have to go through a bunch of configurations before they can be ready and secure and available to the public. So that kind of depends on us, kind of depends on when they're available to us from KU. And Ed says that the Neon Biorepository portal should also be up tonight.
And Ed, were you going to say something else about that?
No, establishing these portals, big heavy lift is getting the environment set up, the server environment, and that's something we've been working on for the last several days. But we have to rebuild every portal from the data downloads and the code. That's all backed up nightly. So, but it should go a lot faster now that we got the environment established. So hopefully by the end of the week, most of the portals should be up. But still a lot of work.
Robin asks, what about InvertiBase? I just got word on our NSF, got word from NSF, our annual report is due September 1st. You will definitely, well, nothing is definite, but I am 99% sure it will be up before September 1st and most likely this week. Annette, you have another question?
Sorry for another question.
No
This
worries.
is a question for Ed Gilbert. Are we when we add data, when we update our data, does that automatically go online? How does that work?
As you edit data and add new records, they are automatically online. That's correct. So
That's good. Thank you.
Frank, you have a question?
It doesn't concern everybody, but it does concern me. So I put it on the chat for Greg, but he didn't check, I guess. I was wondering about the WordPress side. Do we need to go back to those backups that we have, or were you able to download that?
I honestly have not had a chance to go back and extract the WordPress data. We theoretically have access to it, but I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. So if it's easier to restore from your backup, that might be a faster path forward.
Okay, because
So we can
there's
talk.
about or 3 days difference. So which I did a lot of editing. So, but whatever, we can talk about it separately.
Yeah, happy to help.
Katie,
Jen?
can you give people a sense of the portal landscape? So, one question was, why didn't Myco portal go down? And so maybe explain where there were about 4 portals that didn't go down, and including the USDA ones.
Yeah, so the USDA biocollections portal is on USDA servers, so that was not affected by ASU servers. Myco portal is on University of Illinois servers, so again, that was not affected. We have been separately messaging folks that we know are hosting their own portals with the information about how to update their code and their servers to make it secure, independently of what we've been sending to the whole group. Because as soon as we knew that there was X and such vulnerabilities, we wanted to make sure that those portals got those vulnerabilities fixed as quickly as possible because they were vulnerable. And let's see what other portals. There were a couple of Symbiota Support Hub hosted portals that did not go down because those were already on University of Kansas servers. They're kind of lesser known portals, but they include the DigiHerb portal and the Dapper portal. Both of those are on KU servers, so those never went down.
Okay, and then my new question is, so many people have a URL that is their project URL, like cch2.org or something like that, and that points to a portal. And so now that the portals are going to be on a different server, does everybody with one of those websites need some information in order to point their browser to the correct server now?
Yeah, that's one of the last steps in the process because we don't want people jumping to an unfinished page. But we're in close contact with everyone who owns those domain names, and we'll be sending them the new IPs that they need to point their domains to as soon as we have those portals up.
Great, thank you.
So these hackers were specifically targeting ASU networks because they wanted to get in the ASU networks, and that's why it was that particular network that went down. But they weren't looking at the other networks. It wasn't on their radar. And they put a significant amount of effort to break into it. It looks like there was a month period that they were working at it. And there's many steps that they had to jump through. And they had to learn the Symbiota code extremely well to be able to get in there. So it was a multi-level type situation. The
There's a
new
couple
environment
questions.
is extremely more robust now, and it's isolated from each other. And we have multi-levels of security to protect from people uploading malicious files.
There's a couple of questions in the chat about image uploading, and that's an important point that I neglected to mention. So you have not been able to upload images to via Globus, which is our usual workflow, because uploading to Globus actually just uploads to an ASU server, and that ASU server was taken down due to the security issues. So at the moment, there is no batch image uploading. You can still individually upload images once the portals get back online. But that's actually an additional point that we are still working on is restoring the availability of the images. They're all still there, but the security operations team is going through them to make sure that there's no malicious files mixed in with all of the good images. And once that has all been done, then we can restore access to all the images. So correct me if I'm wrong, Greg and Ed, but when the portals come back online, there's probably still going to be a lag before the images are available. Is that correct?
That's correct. And there's probably going to be a lag before we establish batch loading procedures again. You will be able to upload images right away through the portal interface, but we still have to set up the workflows for batch loading images into the KU environment.
And then Mike had a question in the chat, and then I'll get to you, Christy. Mike says, should we be concerned with assigning editors, perhaps numerous mini students in our area, more vetting or regular updating? I would not worry too much about giving editor permissions to people that you know or have met. One good rule of thumb, though, is to look into your permissions like annually and get rid of any people who don't currently need editing permissions. That's just kind of a nice thing, anyways, in case, I don't know, disgruntled student decides to go in. But yeah, so I would check your user permissions annually, if not more frequently, maybe end of the school year or something, to just remove anyone who you don't really need to have access anymore.
And
Christy. Oh,
this
go ahead.
this security breach was not actually part of our community, so it wasn't someone from our community. It was actually someone that was able to get someone else's username and login credentials, and then do the malicious stuff. So I think the people associated with our community is pretty safe. But the thing is, we've added several layers of protection underneath it. So even if they do obtain passwords and usernames now, it's still protected in the back end. So we don't think that's a huge concern anymore.
Yeah, great point. Go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, my question is to Ed about this, and maybe I'm definitely super naive, but like, why would somebody do this? We're not a bank. We don't have money. It's like the most valuable thing in the world to me is this data, but it's not valuable to anybody else financially. Like, why would somebody put all this effort into messing up this lovely, wonderful system?
It's a very good question. It's more of a situation where we're collateral damage in the aspect of they were interested in getting into the ASU systems. And it's because we're being hosted by the university. Because if they get into ASU systems and they're able to do either steal research information, there's more valuable research information out there. But also if they want to encrypt all the files and then hold it for ransom, they can make millions of dollars.
Which just happened at UCSF. So I just put a link to the chat where the cyber hackers in that case, they just lock down all your data and they encrypt it. And so if you want to continue functioning as an institution, you have to pay them to get all your data back. And so UCSF just paid $1.1 million to get their data unencrypted from the hackers just so they could function again. And so ASU, is just a big money target to cripple a university and say, hey, if you want to function, you want all your students to have access to their data, do you want all the access to your system's data? Then you have to pay us and we'll let you have it again.
Okay, there's a few more questions in the chat. Gary asks, does the migration to the KU server result in a change of hyperlinks of individual specimen records? No, it should not, because we're using the same domain names. So likenportal.org is going to continue to be likenportal.org, just at a different IP address. Kate asks, will users be notified when their portal is up and running again, or do we need to check them daily? We will be notifying people as batches of portals are available. Greg answered Diego's questions.
Katie, can I interrupt you there for a second? If there's anybody on this call who does not receive emails from the Symbiota Support Hub, like you didn't get regular updated emails about this security issue, then that means that we don't have your correct email or it's going to spam. And so it'd be worth checking your junk folder or making sure to add the Symbiota Support Hub in your contacts. That way the emails come into your inbox. So if you haven't been getting them, then we might not have a way to communicate with you, and we should fix that.
And if you had any people who were coming to you saying, hey, this portal that I go to look at your data is down, then you can actually have them subscribe to our email list. So just have them send us an email saying, hey, I want to hear updates about the Symbiota portals. We have a public subscribers list that they can get on. Annette says, when hackers begin messing around attempting to get into Symbiota, can those efforts be detected in time to stop them cold? That's pretty much what happened here, actually. We had the security operations team reviewing the activity that was happening, and they were able to stop it in a really short amount of time. The problem is that then you just have to find out where the infiltration happened, and that process takes a long time.
And during that time, nobody can do any work.
Just in case some of the activity had not been tracked and random stuff was in the portal. Adam asks, are there any processes to close or delete dormant or inactive user accounts? I'm not sure if it's a risk or not to have a large number of accounts, even if there are no collection edit permissions. Just curious. We have talked about this in the past, but if you delete accounts, then you also delete like the record of them having done stuff in the portal, and that attribution can be really important moving forward. So I think as long as you are removing people's permissions, like you don't really have very much access to anything if you have an account. Like you can't even create a checklist anymore because you have to have checklist creation permissions. So there's almost nothing you can do as a user that you can't do as a non-logged in user. Kate says, are you able to estimate when we'll be able to use Globus again? I don't think so. I don't have an estimate. Greg, did you hear whether they had finished that process or like where they were in that process of vetting the image mount?
We did not get an update on that this morning. I am planning on pushing that issue tomorrow morning at the next meeting. So
Thanks.
Yeah,
hopefully,
but is that question more about when we could get up batch loading images? Is
Yes,
that more?
because Kate's got a
Oh,
project
yeah.
ending and they need to batch upload their images ASAP. And so perhaps
Yeah.
we can get a system going where those could be batch uploaded somewhere and potentially even just linked in a portal later.
Yeah, well, I think as a team we'll have to talk about that and figure that out, but I think we could probably come up with something in the short term.
It's probably not gonna be this week because the main priority is just getting the portals up.
Lawrence asked, at first the portals went down for a short period, then came back for a day or two, then went down for this long period. Was the data entered during that short back online period saved? I believe the answer is yes. Is that we got the downloads from that one day, or did we not?
No.
Okay.
So it was from the previous day. So that short time that some of the portals were up.
Yeah, I think it was just one morning, right?
Yeah, they weren't up long enough for the backups, for nightly backups to be triggered.
Gotcha.
And the problem is that we got the portals up rather quickly, but then and we had point end protection that allows you to monitor if someone accesses right away. And we quickly realized that this new servers were breached right away. So then we had to take it down. That's what triggered the big investigation.
Beth asks, when things are operating normally, is there a regular time when systems go down for updates? I've noticed the platforms periodically being unavailable and assumed it was for regularly scheduled work, and I'm curious if that's the case. Beth, I think what you were experiencing was a different attack that we have been fighting for the last month. So the attack that we've had in the last 2 weeks was a hack, like an actual attack. There's another type of attack called a distributed denial of service attack, and that's when bots or automatic processes hit the servers really hard just asking for stuff. And that means that the server gets overloaded and can't give real users the stuff that they're asking for. And so that was kind of the first group of things that we have been fighting in different ways. And so that's probably why you were experiencing outages for the last month or so. Normally, updates that are expected happen overnight. So if you are on the other side of the world, you might experience a downtime due to those updates happening or those portal snapshots being taken. but you're unlikely to run into those in a normal workday in the United States.
Since last fall, there's been a huge uptick of entities out there just trying to disrupt server systems within the States. And that's what we've been struggling with for the last 6 months. Then this was prior to the hack. So
Anna, who is a librarian at Botanical Research Institute of Texas, says that digital library platforms have experiencing similar floods of bots. And we've been getting that same message from IDBio, from GBIF, from anyone who has an online database that for some reason, in the past few months, things are really attacking US systems and non-US systems. Other questions? Thank you all for your questions. These are great. I'm sure if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it. Anything else? Allison, go for it.
Hey, we were wondering if, so we're a live online database, and given
Your audio just cut out, Allison.
We cannot hear you.
We started by hearing you, and then it just, there you go.
unmute. All right, I'll try again. Otherwise, I'll put it in the chat. But what about software so that we could actually have more functionality in our downloaded backup?
Oh, we lost your audio again.
Okay.
Nope, now you're back.
Downloading, we're live online, and if we back up, we have essentially a big set of tables. Is there a way for us, is there under development some software or something so that we have a little more functionality than just like searching a table for data offline? Or should we be going to GBIF instead?
Yeah, we don't really have any recommendations for that besides using, the Excel spreadsheet, or if you want to go to GBIF, you can do kind of more specific searches there.
Okay, I guess maybe a little short tutorial on how to find our data and use it in GBIF at some point would be nice.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
Ed, or
building a system where you could manage data online, but then offline too, and then have that coordinate is really complicated and hard to build. So, and given the funding that we have, that's pretty much beyond our capabilities at this point.
Okay, GBIF will work meanwhile.
And in fact, we probably will do a Symbiota support group about GBIF in the next couple of months because they're actually changing their search interface. So it's easier to use, in my opinion. So that would be a nice time to do that. Paula makes a comment about multi-factor authentication. I think that we have like the code in place where you could activate certain types of external authentication systems, but you would have to have some sort of access to that authentication system. So it's not like you would be able to, hook into University of Minnesota's system without it being hosted like on University of Minnesota.
And our portals have the ability to activate that per portal, but the thing is, we want to create protections, and we don't want to inhibit people to use it by making it too complicated login and so forth. The protections that we put in will protect against us going down again if someone is compromised or login or whatever. So we think it's a lot more robust now.
Yeah, like if someone hacked a password, they would not be able to do this same thing. Like that has been, you can't do that. But we're just saying, give some extra cushion to that security by having really secure passwords, and that will help everyone.
And so I just want to reiterate what the way forward looks like for this next week, which is that as the portals come back online, that portal community, that I assume all the editors and administrators of that portal will get an email saying that it's back up online. And the portal manager will get instructions for where to point the website. And when you go there for the first time, you'll have to change your password. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think
Mhm. And we anticipate, like we've had issues with the portal resets before, but there's or the password resets before. There'll be instructions in the email that's coming to you about the portals, about how to update it, and also where that email, or the email address where that reset is going to come from. So then you can add that to your contacts, and hopefully it won't block it through spam. But if you have any issues with resetting your password, you can always just email us at help@symbiota.org, and we have the ability to go manually set your password to something. So then you can go in and then set it yourself to whatever you want it to be. Okay, any other questions?
Well, I just want to say, just maybe in closing, that obviously it's a total nightmare when something like this happens. I mean, we know that all of you are in different stages of projects and grant cycles or training or volunteer events or workshops, and having those portals go down was, I mean, it's never a good time, but it seemed like it was particularly a bad time. And so thank you for your patience. And that's just the reality of the weird world we live in now. And then also to the computer science team at the Symbiota Support Hub, like you guys have been really awesome in trying to figure out exactly what the problems were, how to fix the code preemptively to make sure that those things are not problems anymore, and then working really hard to get everything set up at KU very quickly so that we could get the portals online and as soon as possible. And so uh, for my own portal, but also speaking from the community, thank you for that work that you guys are doing.
Round of applause to these guys because they have literally been spending multiple 10, 12-hour days working on the weekends to do all this. And it's been a huge amount of over the top work. All right, thanks everyone. If you are going to join us in Español, I will see you in 8 minutos. Otherwise, wonderful to see you all. Thanks again for your support, and we really appreciate you all. Bye.